Okay, give me just one sec here. We're gonna wait for some people to get in. They're all in our waiting room, so I just gotta kind of let everybody in here real fast. Let's see. Actually put this over here so you can see it. Okay, so I think we had about 11 people that wanted to attend live. So like I said, I'll just kind of take maybe the first like 3 to 5 minutes or so, just kind of let people trickle in so we don't get started without them. They all get kind of pushed to our waiting room, so I just gotta let them in one by one here. So while everybody's kind of getting in, I'm gonna hurry and grab, because the lighting's really bad, I'm gonna hurry and grab my ring light real fast. Okay. How's everybody's day going so far, though? Coming up on the weekend?
Not bad.
Not bad? Okay, good to hear. Thanks for breaking the silence there, Megan.
No problem. I'm good for that. I might stop my video because I was actually having dinner and then I got the email and I was like, oh man. So I've got a glass of wine, I got some food, and I thought that may not be something to have recorded. Me, slurping and chomping down on dinner. So I might stop the video and,
Yeah, you're all good. No worries. So it's basically going to just be Phil and I kind of talking through it for a little bit. I guess why we're kind of waiting, I guess what we typically like to do for these, so everybody has an idea, is it is obviously a Q&A. So feel free to ask whatever questions you want. These all get recorded. Hopefully, as we have more and more people join the community, we'll find maybe some better timelines. We're doing a lot of experimenting right now. There's a lot of people in different parts of the world that are all part of the community. So we ran our first one at 5. This is our second one at 5. We had 11 people that said they could attend live. I think the majority so far have just kind of been watching like after it's recorded. So we might play around with the times a little bit more to see if there's like a better one that we can find. But outside of that, we'll kind of run through. I'll introduce Phil here in just a second. We'll run through like who he is, how he fits into the Salesforce community, how he and I know each other. And then like once we kind of go through like the bulk of the idea of building out our portfolio, feel free to ask any guys, questions that you might have. I think we have some lined up as well, some stuff that I'll probably ask Phil and other people that have sent to me. So more or less, that's kind of how we run through these. And then obviously, like you said, Megan, too, like if you want to turn off your camera, feel free to. It doesn't have to be on by any means if you're doing something else. And then obviously these are always recorded. So I'll always post them back into the community if you can't ever attend them live. Okay, cool. Well, we are just about at 5 minutes. I'll just kind of keep watching as people enter our meeting room here. Outside of that, I guess we'll get started here so that we don't take up any more of y'all's time. So for today's Q&A, what we're going to be going over is building out our portfolio. So I'm sure at this point, we've had our course open. Some of you are kind of joining at different times. Don't know specifically everybody live with us where you're at, maybe in as far as like the pacing goes on our course. But hopefully you've had a chance to get to at least the portfolio portion of it. Some context behind that before I introduce Phil here in just a sec is building out your portfolio. So there's two sides of Salesforce when you get into it. There's one side of it that is all the technical, and then there's another side of it that's all the marketing. And what people tend to do in the Salesforce world is they go all in on the technical side, which is great. They get their certifications, they do their trailhead, They do everything to try to find some hands-on experience. All great things, definitely should do those. But where I see a lot of people end up failing and struggling to find jobs and kind of the long run of transitioning in is the marketing piece of it. And so for these Q&A sessions, what we've been trying to do is do one at the beginning of the month that's going to focus on our technical skills. And then the second one that we run in the month, more focus on these soft skills or marketing ourselves so that we can equally pair those together. And I can show you guys like how both of those have really helped me learn Salesforce, one side of it, right? And then the second side is obviously get into a job. So that's what we're going to be going over today. It's this more of the soft skill side of things. For myself, building out a portfolio is super critical. What it's really allowed me to do in the long run, it's kind of a long play, is you really set yourself up to be found a lot more online. You set yourself up to what I like to kind of steal from another creator. One thing that he likes to talk a lot about is called build once, sell twice. And it's kind of the same idea, right? Which is instead of trying to always market yourself, always put yourself out there, always sit there and redo things that you've already done before. The idea behind the portfolio is, okay, I built this one time in my trailhead. Instead of like redoing that and retrying to showcase that every single interview that I go into or every single day on social media, I just have this place on the internet that's my portfolio. Once I built it, I put it over there on my portfolio and now it's there forever. And that for me, like it's kind of like anything else, right? Like in the beginning, you do a lot of work up to it to kind of get into play. But once you have it there, like you have it there, right? And so for me at this point, it's more of just a maintenance thing. I might add to it here or there, but I really don't add to it a ton. And I still get people that reach out to me in my DMs, and that's usually what they're referencing, right? Which is, hey, came across your portfolio or your, website that you have up, and saw everything that you know how to do. Think you fit this role really well, and it does all that work up front for me. To where the last maybe 2 or 3 jobs that I've taken didn't really have to do any of the technical piece, right? They'd already seen it all. They already knew I knew how to do the job. And so it was really just a lot of like, are you going to be a good fit culturally? So anyways, that's more or less what we're going to be talking about today in our Q&A. I don't want to hold Phil off for too long because he's made some really good time for us to spend time over here to go over all of his side of things. So a little quick introduction about who Phil is. Phil and I have known each other for a little bit now, got connected through Twitter and LinkedIn and kind of been going back and forth a little bit through our connection. He's done an awesome job. I've really appreciated Phil because he's one of those guys that I feel like I've connected with, I vibe with quite a bit, and he's been really cool to keep me updated on all the progress he's been making. One cool thing I like doing in this community is you all obviously like have myself, and sometimes I get it because like I can kind of steer us in the right direction. I have 5 years experience. I've done all these things. But one thing that makes it tough from my own personal experiences is if you don't have somebody that's like right in line, maybe just like 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and say, okay, well, that's coming from maybe Jordan who has 4 or 5 years experience. I'm just not there yet. And so Phil also fits into this category where he's also really new on his transition. So I just felt like it would be a really good idea to get him online for us today and go over his like Salesforce path that he's been through. And obviously today a little more particular how he's built out his portfolio and what benefits he's seen from that. So Phil did a lot of talking there. Do you mind kind of, I guess, just jumping on, giving us a little background about who you are, how you fit into the Salesforce space?
Yeah, so my name is Philip or Phil, whichever one. I don't mind whichever one you call me. So I'm based out of Houston, Texas. And a little bit about me, I started my Salesforce journey in December of last year. Long story short, I just hated my previous job and I didn't see anywhere like any potential for growth. So I was like, what can I do? And essentially I found Salesforce on Twitter, which was crazy because at my old job we use Salesforce every day. And I found out about the Salesforce administrator job and role through Twitter, and it being a hashtag like bored but paid role, which I mean, some days it is boring, but others it's not. So it started diving deep in December. Fast forward to May, I got my first job as a Salesforce analyst. I'm a mixture between a business analyst and a Salesforce administrator. And I manage, or actually, I oversee 260 users in a division for a company, and did that without being certified as well. Just really started documenting my journey on LinkedIn and Twitter. And that's actually how this recruiter found me, was on LinkedIn. She just saw that I was posting a lot. This was before my website, my portfolio. She saw I was posting a lot and just providing value. And yeah, that's how I got my role that I'm in now. And yeah, now I'm certified. I got certified last month. So yeah, that's where I'm at now in my journey.
Congrats on that cert too. That's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I also didn't know that part about you, actually, that they'd found you from posting on social media as well. I was going to kind of dive into that. So they found you through LinkedIn of you just posting there. What were you posting before you were certified and before you had your website?
Yeah, so I was just honestly posting just things that I was doing, whether that be on Trailhead or any like beginner stuff that I was just learning. Like, hey, I learned how to set up an account, and I call it. It was a little bit of luck, but I also believe that putting myself out there provided me that I don't know, that way for the recruiter to find me, mixed up with luck. So I just was intentional about it. Um, to this day, I can tell you I don't know everything. I'm still a sponge, absorbing as much knowledge and information as possible. But I like to just share what I'm doing, and it seems to work because even today, like I get probably two or three messages on LinkedIn from recruiters. It's not like every day, but like every other day, and yeah, it works. Like, so all I can say is it works. Documenting your journey works 1,000%.
Good. I'm glad that you shared that too, because I know on my side of things, like I tend to get around the same, but obviously a little further down the journey. So it's cool to hear that, like, so early on, you can see results like that just from documenting what you know. Now, I guess for everybody else, context wise, did you have a lot of like previous experience posting online and putting yourself out there like that, or was this pretty new for you to do something?
Honestly, it wasn't pretty new. I started a YouTube channel probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and just that did not go the way I wanted to. I'm actually starting it back up. You can probably see the tripod and the
Oh yeah.
soft box behind me. So I'm not afraid to share anything online. I will say, because this happened this past weekend, I had a tweet go semi-viral on Twitter, and I got some trolls, and I just had to remind myself that I'm doing this for a bigger purpose, and to ignore the people who are just trying to spew hatred towards me. So you will get, like, I will say this, when you put yourself out there like that, you will get some people who disagree with you, but you just got to ignore it and just know that you have a bigger mission and purpose.
Yeah, so how have you handled that, going through that? Like, one, you probably have these people, for context setting. I'm sure a lot of people, I don't know everybody individually that's on this call, but majority of people I speak to, like, it's usually a new thing that they have to get into of, okay, I got to put myself out there. I haven't done that really before. Maybe like here and there on Instagram or Twitter with like friends, but I've never like really tried to like put myself out there and try to say like, hey, I'm an expert on this. So it is a little awkward. I know that was like for myself. And one of those things that did hold me back in a lot of ways for a long time before I started doing it was what you just said too, which is like, I don't know how I'm going to react like when somebody pushes back on me, especially when I first started in Salesforce. It was like, I don't know, like I honestly don't even know like what I'm saying. Like I think I know, but like it's if somebody that has like a 10x certification behind their name comes and tells me I'm wrong, like I'm just gonna consider it that I'm wrong. Like I won't even know what to say or do. So I guess how have you handled like that? Like you just said that you kind of had one pop up on Twitter a little bit. Like what do you do to try to like not let that affect you? And like how did you push past that to be like, okay, this is for the bigger purpose. Like this is the thing that I have in mind of like what I'll see as benefits.
So a couple ththat helped me, just honestly being a part of a community of like-minded individuals, like being part of a community that you know that others are trying to reach a goal that you're trying to reach, helped out a lot. And honestly, so honestly having like a support system, because my wife helps me a lot too. So she's very supportive, and having someone there who understands my goals and what I'm trying to get to, has helped me a lot. And then honestly, because I'm naturally an introverted person,
Yeah.
it's just taking that leap of faith, and just knowing that it's going to pay off. Um, and when you're like consistently, just keep trying every day. And I know it might in your head, like, because I trust me, I still have imposter syndrome to this day. Um, I don't like I didn't when I post stuff, I'm like, no one wants to know how to set up an org, like, but you got to think there's someone, and Jordan says this all the time. There's someone who is literally just starting Salesforce today who doesn't know how to set up an org, who doesn't know how to do um, certain things. And by you putting that out there, that's helping someone. I've gotten DMs from numerous people now who say they love my LinkedIn profile because I'm providing value. And I'm like, wow, I didn't think I was providing value. I was just showing you, tell you what an object is, or like it's crazy how really just don't try not to compare yourself to others. Like don't try to, I know it's hard, but don't compare yourself to Jordan, who's been in the industry for X amount of years. Just stay like laser focused on your own personal journey, and use others as like Jordan and others out there in the Salesforce community as inspiration, because they're giving the blueprint on how to be successful.
Man, that's super solid. I like that the way you framed that too, because when we break it down, I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of where people I feel like get hung up, is this comparison game. And everybody out there, if they tell you they don't compare themselves to somebody else, like they're lying. Like that's how it goes. I know we all do it. I still do it, right? Like I look at Bradley, I look at all these other people that are also awesome creators. And, I compare against like what I'm doing against what they're doing. I mean, it's just a natural thing for all of us to do. So I think the more important part, how you framed it, is trying to find yourself a community, like what I'm trying to do here. I know Bradley's awesome with it in the Talent Stacker group. He's an awesome guy. People like that are willing to just like be authentic and be like real with everybody, I think is a big deal. Just because like, I don't necessarily want you guys to feel that way looking at my stuff either. I want it to be more of what Phil just said, which is like, it's more of a blueprint, right? Which is, this is what's working for me. This is how I'm going about it. By means, feel free to like copy that blueprint if that's what you like. But at the same time, if there's stuff that I do that you don't like and you would prefer to do differently, just switch those pieces out. Like at the end of the day, that's honestly what I'm trying to like provide. So that's a great way to frame it, because I think, we all get caught up in that comparison game. It's easy to do. Okay, cool. So those are really good tips. I think like how you can kind of push through the idea of putting yourself out there a little bit. We talked about social media specifically. How about like your website? So you've started posting a little bit on LinkedIn, Twitter, that brought some opportunities your way. At what point did you decide, okay, I want to build a portfolio? And then how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I initially started trying to build a portfolio through Trailhead on like a developer org. And for me personally, I've built WordPress websites before as well, years ago, and I just did not like how visually pleasing it was not to me and to the eye. It just seemed like a lot going on, and it wasn't like neatly laid out. So and everyone else was doing it, and I'm like, I know if as a recruiter or anyone else who wants to view my portfolio, 9 times out of 10, like they're not gonna, I don't know, they're not gonna just like this I don't know, out of the box Salesforce website that they have. So I was honestly thinking about how was I gonna make a website that showcases what I learned. And Jordan introduced Card to me, and I was like, I YouTube, because that's what I do. I YouTube everything, and I'm like, wow, this can actually work. And I set up a Card account, created my website, And I tweaked it a little bit because I was having issues setting it up, but I found something that works for me to where I can literally write my blog post using an outside source, and I actually attached the what's it called, the code to the website, and it works for me. So I can just upload my blog post, and it's attached to my website. So I like how clean my website looks. And then if I want to change anything like the looks of it, it's simple. I can just change out the theme if I want to, or the background, but it's very user friendly. I put it that way compared to the Salesforce uh, dev org that they they try to push for your portfolio. So that's why I love it. And I've gotten a lot of compliments from it from others in this industry and recruiters and hiring managers.
Cool. Yeah, let me see if I can pull this up here too. I think I gotta hurry and change my settings real quick. So while I'm talking here, I'll do that. But yeah, I think the idea behind it too with like Card, for those that don't know, do you mind breaking down, I guess, like cost wise, maybe how much time you put into it as well?
Yeah, so Card, I believe I'm actually making a YouTube video on it. That's how much I've gotten. How many questions I've gotten over it. But I believe it's $19 a year, and that's just for the Card platform to like for it to host your site. I also purchased a domain, which I highly recommend you guys do, because I attached that domain, which is my name is philipspatterson.com, just for that personal branding. Highly recommend you do that. It's pretty cheap on Google or Namecheap, and um, and then the cost, what was costly, I'll say, which I'll go over in my YouTube video, but it's the actual drop-in blog that I use. So the one I pay for, it's $128 a year, but I use a coupon, and there's a cheaper option. I believe that one, I want to say I'm actually looking at it right now. It's, let's see. It's actually it's actually free, I believe. Um, if I'm not mistaken. I just didn't go with that option because the support was not as good as the other company, and I was trying to get this up quickly. And I can share these with Jordan, the resource I use, so that you guys can take a look at it. But I've talked to the owner for both companies, and they seem to like the one I'm using, the support team. They're pretty quick in responding to like anything that I was having troubles with. Like, let's say I wanted to adjust my layout or anything like that, if I had issues with how my blog posts were looking. They were immediate, real time in adjusting it. Whereas the other company that's, I think, is free or $12 a month, I can't remember. It took them some time, like through emails, to get back to me and respond. But either one's a great option. So all in all, you're looking at maybe like $130 for the year, and the return on that is insane.
Yeah.
Think
Where
about
did
it.
you say you bought your domain from?
I bought my domain actually from Google Domains.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think those are like super solid pricing too. I'll throw it out there. I think for myself, and what we have in the course here in our community is so Card, and then obviously, like Phil said, there's like different tiers that you can get into. But there is one that offers quite a bit of stuff for it for like 19 bucks a year, so super cheap that way. And then for
Mhm.
myself, I actually used, and I'll plug that, is I don't know if you guys all follow Justin Welsh on LinkedIn, but he's basically all about how to like start your own business, solopreneur type stuff. So he has a lot of like gems around type stuff like this, tools and things. I've been following him for quite some time, and he recommended a couple of these resources, Card, and that's how I found out about it. And then his big thing was to go to GoDaddy.com. Probably the first time ever that I've ever been on that site. I remember when they first came out with that thing forever ago. And so I went there, and I actually was able to get mine. It looks like Phil used a .com though, which is really clean. I ended up for mine did Jordan, just my name, and then .me is what I used for mine. And I think I paid like $3 for a year. So super cheap. Obviously, it's not a .com. I personally didn't want to go with the .com, but they also have some cheap ones over there too if you guys want to go that route. And I have all that obviously in the course too for you, so you can always go that route. But let's take a test drive of like Phil's stuff. So you've been staring at it for a second. Obviously, really cool what we're sharing. You can kind of Google some of this. So what I want to show us on this call, since it's interactive, is just like how clean it looks, right? And this is using a source from Phil on his end where he's spending like roughly 130 bucks a year on it. And everything's set up. He has everything here. It's kind of going back to this idea, right, of build once, sell twice, which is a famous saying by another creator that I follow. And the idea behind it for Phil is he's doing exactly that, right? So he has his portfolio over here we can click into, and he already has all the stuff that he's going to continue to build upon. But he's already got 5 things in here that you could quickly dive into. So I can click on his portfolio. Okay, cool. If I'm a recruiter and I'm looking at this, first thing I can do here, I can click on create a lookup relationship. Okay, what is this all about, right? And what this is going to do is a couple things. Not only does Phil have this available for somebody to go and look at and do all that pre-work ahead of time, because when you think about a recruiting call, what is the first thing that they usually do on that first call? It's all this get to know you. Okay, they're trying to fill you out. What kind of skills do you have? What's your experience like? And the point of this for Phil is this is going to cut all of that out for him, right? Which is if somebody, or if they reach out to him, he can easily plug this. They can now go here and they can figure those things out ahead of time. So whether he's qualified or he's not qualified doesn't really matter, right? Because what's going to happen is the people reaching out to Phil are going to figure this piece out, and they should all start to funnel down to being qualified candidates, right? And that's what's happened for me over the course of 2 years or so that I've been doing this, is everybody that comes into my space, every once in a while, something's not qualified, or it's maybe not the route I personally want to go. But more or less, they've all seen what I talk about. They see my portfolio, and it's all centered on what I would be doing. So the cool part is you can just get right to brass tacks with them. And you can actually just, what I push for in all of my DMs is I actually just go a step further and just ask for the salary range is like one of my first questions, since that's like a high one for me that I care about. And so it's nice because we kind of already have this trust, right? Like they know what I can do. They know that I'm going to bring value. So that allows me to have a little more leverage in those conversations to just be like, cool, sounds like a good role. I'd love to do it. What's the salary on this? If the salary lines up, okay, then yeah, let's make some time. And then you're almost already on that second or third interview. I know it's the first one, but they've already bypassed a lot of the stuff that you would be doing. And that's how I've gotten myself personally into these positions of like what Phil's going to do. Of already doing that same thing. They already know what he knows how to do, what he doesn't know how to do. And that's the point of this. So that's point one, right? Build once, sell twice. The second point on here though, that I love is Phil is doing the same thing with written communication. So in Salesforce and with the pandemic and everything like that, written communication is massive. It's massively underrated, I should say, when it comes to all of our jobs, which is you have this thing where we're all on Slack, we're all on Teams, we're all on LinkedIn. All of what we do comes back to writing. Like for me personally, think about how you probably found out about me. It was probably through something written, right? Which is LinkedIn, Twitter, a newsletter. Like I write a ton every single day, and that's just outside of work. And then at work, I'm sitting there writing every single day inside of Slack, talking with people, emails. So how well you communicate is a big deal. And especially if you go down the admin path, it's massive for the idea of letting people kind of get a preview of like what it is that you would be doing at work, right? Like how well do they take the concept, break that concept down, and make it easy for someone to understand. And your job in a lot of these cases for you in this course, developers might have a little pass, but the better you get at this in general, the better it is going to be for your career, which is how well can you take a bunch of Salesforce jargon that nobody cares about and turn it into something that somebody can understand. So when I talk with stakeholders, for example, every single day, this is basically what I'm trying to get good at, this stuff that Phil did, right? How do I make it relatable? How do I use words that they're going to know how to understand? And how do I make it to where it sticks for them? They don't care whether or not I use fancy words, talk about flow, talk about what an object is doing. They could care less. What they want to know is, does it do the things that I told you that I want it to do? That's what they want to know. So trying to come up with different examples, how you explain that all can be done inside here. So it's almost a 2-for-1 that way, right? Build once, sell twice. You have written communication you're showcasing. And then third, you have this idea of like, how well can they break down like a concept into something simple? So that's really cool about this that I wanted to point out. So we can scroll down here. You can kind of see Phil already has all this sweet stuff. So you have a back button you can go to, brings you back to his front page here. If you look back at his portfolio, right, you can hit back to blog, I believe. This will showcase all the rest of the stuff he has here. And he can just continue to add to this. And like I said, this is like something that you always put information into. And every time that you add to it, it just becomes more valuable. So when you think about like this course, right, we have this course. The reason I sold it for cheaper at the beginning is, well, there was nothing there, right? Like I'm hoping people take a chance on me. I have nothing to show for it yet. But in the long run, as we continue to do this, we continue to do these calls, I add more to the course, I add more to the community. In time, it only gets more valuable. It can only go up in price because I'm adding more and more to it. Nothing's being taken away. And it's the same idea with your portfolio. And same thing with Phil's saying. And for myself, right, I created mine a long time ago. I maybe add some here and there. I probably should do more than I do, to be honest. But the cool part is it's all just sitting there and the value still remains the same. If I add to it, cool, it's better. But if I don't add to it, it doesn't really matter. So that's a cool piece about it. Let's see, let's take a look at all these other items. So Phil also has his resume on here, which is really nice. Really clean way for you to just point people to this. Something that is a common pain point. Phil, have you ran into a lot of these where people are like, they'll hit you up, a recruiter, and then ask for like a hard copy of your resume quite a bit?
Honestly, yeah, actually, yeah, it does happen.
Okay. So I've had the same thing happen, and this is like a really good way to kind of get around that. Is I also have my resume on there, and it's just a quick way for you to just like push them that way, and they can take a look at it. I also, for mine specifically, I also have like a download button. So if they wanted to actually just download my resume right there, they could, which is a nice little touch. We also have certifications, really sweet there. Kind of plug those in as he continues to earn those. We have an about page, a little bit about who Phil is, where he came from, what he likes to do outside of Salesforce. And then we have a contact page as well with some of his social links that he can go to. So what I wanted to kind of quickly show there is, one, super clean, works really nice, easy to find stuff. Two, it doesn't need to be this ginormous thing that you build out. I know for mine, if anybody's ever tried to use mine as a blueprint, mine is turning into that because there's all these other things I'm trying to do now. And it's kind of more turning into my own website. But the point of a portfolio is you don't need to do it that way. I mean, Phil's has everything you need. It's right in front of you, and it's fairly quick to do. So I guess on that side, Phil, how long would you say, like, for a beginner getting into card, have you spent trying to build this out? And then if somebody watched maybe some of your YouTube videos, how fast do you think someone could spin one up?
Honestly, I think someone could create this in maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
It honestly should not take you long. Like for me, it took me longer because I'm a semi-perfectionist, so I wanted like the perfect background photo. I wanted everything to be lined up, but and then I had to figure out how to do certain things that I did not know how to do. But with a template, like you use mine as a template. It's go ahead, honestly. And knowing how to like input stuff on card with some instruction, it should not take you long at all. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, card, like I said, I know this is in our course, guys, but if you haven't got there yet, pretty easy to use. The thing that Phil is kind of talking about here is they basically have all these templates. And so you go to their site, you basically pick a template of what you like, how it looks, you select it, and from there, it's already like the skeleton is available for you. So you just plug stuff in as you go, right? So you want a picture? Cool, plug it in. You want some text here? Cool, plug it in. And it's already showing you kind of what that would look like, right? So makes it really easy that way. And that's one reason why I've also always recommended this site, is it just seems, if you're not this person that wants to get into something like Wix or Squarespace or WordPress, and it's just something like, hey, I'm just going to like put up this portfolio so I have it and I have it available and I can add to it. Super great option for all those people. Plus, it also looks really clean, as you saw with Phil's. So really nice that way too, to where it's like, it's not an amateur type of thing. Also, Phil, I wanted to like point out too, I appreciate you saying that thing about like the design piece of it, because I think, you know, what I've seen float around in like different communities and like on LinkedIn is some people trying to downplay that fact and just like get out there and put it out there. But I'm also with you. I think that I'm like a strong believer on really anything that you put out there online, you can, and maybe someone will read it. But I mean, I think your formatting and how things look is almost just as important as what you talk about, because I mean, that's the basis of marketing, right? Which is, you could put out whatever you want. It could be the most valuable resource you want, but if it doesn't look good, then you're not getting anybody to stop and read it or stop and look at it. So I really like that you called that out. Outside of like being pretty easy to set up, what was, I guess, some of like the challenges that you ran into building your portfolio?
Really, for me, it was just figuring out the blog piece of it. So how was I going to attach my blog to my website? Because I tried to do it straight onto Card. There might be a way to do it, but it just did not look visually pleasing in the way I wanted it to look. So use the power of Google, which is another tool that you'll be using on your Salesforce journey, and found this company where it was literally just drop in some code and you have your blog post set up. So that's why I said it should not take you long at all to set this site up. It should be very quick. You can have it done in a weekend easily if you just wanted to knock it out.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, we're about 20 minutes left in the session. I know Phil and I have been talking a lot. If you guys have anything to say, awesome. If not, we can continue to go down some different paths, but wanted to take a pause for a second and see if anybody else is willing to break the ice, ask any questions, anything like that.
So
Yeah.
two of
Go
us
ahead,
talking
Megan.
at once. Okay.
Go for it.
So I think maybe the whole blog piece was what I had a question about, because I've looked at Card before, and maybe it was the portfolio topic or theme that I was looking at, but it was just a linear page. And it just like kept on scrolling down. And I was like, this is no good. Like, I might as well just stick with my Google site portfolio thing, like, because that at least I can have different pages that someone actually clicks on, and then they can go and see different things that I've edited and stuff. And so is there a way that you could maybe, well, no, you said that you have the YouTube and you were going to maybe show different ways to do it, because that would be extremely useful. Because like I said, I didn't even commit to Card, because once I saw that it was just like one continuous scroll thing, that I'm like, this isn't going to work. So I guess I'll follow you on YouTube. You've got a new subscriber, and I'll just keep an eye out for that.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's
Thanks,
really,
Karen.
that's a really good question. I'll see if Phil has anything after I have something to say. Yeah, like basically, right, like he has his idea here, and it does show it that way. I agree with you, because I've built a few sites on here and I was the same way, where it's like, this looks like just one giant thing I'm going to have to scroll through, and I don't really want them to do that. I want them to click into something. And so the way that I kind of got around it when I did it, maybe Phil knows a better way, is like you can set up these buttons, and on the back end, when you're building it, it looks like you have one entire page, but you set these different things on your site, and you will say like, hey, this is actually going to send this person to a new page. What I can do is I'll take some screenshots after this, put it into the community, because I definitely have a video on that where it's like, it will show you that, give you a better idea. But I do agree with you. It is a little, it's not as intuitive on that piece of it to make it into separate pages. Phil, do you have any tips on that, or was that a challenge for you when you got into it?
Yeah, that was a challenge for me when I was first creating the site, and that's the roadblock I ran into actually, because on a page I would like, let's say I want my portfolio page, I wanted to have like let's call it a heading for like flows, and then also like a heading for something else. I couldn't do that in car. I could do it, but it would have required a lot more work and planning. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. So that's why if you go to my portfolio tab, I have it set up to where it's that blog, that drop-in blog. And then on the top of my portfolio, I have my categories so that if a recruiter wants to look at, oh, let's look at configuration, let's look at flows, it'll pull up everything in that I tagged for that category. So it won't be an infinite scrolling loop. Um, so yeah, that's my workaround on it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, those are really good ones. I'll also post a couple Google pages that I had found when I was doing that, Megan. I'll put it in the community after this too, so you can kind of look at those for an instant resource. For sure, follow Phil after this because he'll have a walkthrough.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, cool. And then Jaron, I know you had a question. Anything that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that Phil was talking about, the blog, because I noticed I had started doing. I basically like followed the Jordan's video in that part. Like I can't remember, like you said, Megan. I don't know if it was portfolio or building. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I followed that and just tried to like do it exactly as he did, and maybe change the pictures and whatnot. And then I'm thinking, how am I going to update the blog post? So that was good for that. But the question I think I had is more on the content side of things, like, is it mainly just like the value that you're providing? Is that more of, and this is Phil or Jordan or anybody really, is it more like how to's, or maybe like, here's a struggle I had and here's how I got over it, like, they talk about like in LinkedIn and stuff, be authentic and show if you're struggling, show it, whatever, but you also want to show like weakness in some sense, but more like overcoming it maybe. But yeah, so what are some of the things as far as content wise, you're like, oh, do this, stay away from this, or whatever? What is that value that you see as the most valuable to your people consuming your content?
Yeah, good question. Phil, you want to go first on that one?
Yeah, if you don't mind, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
So I can show something.
Yep.
Oh, you disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, dang. You want to put is there a link to it?
I was gonna link my Notion to show what I do, but I'll explain it. It's no big deal. So what I do how-tos, and so for me, my thought process behind it is the how-tos are for beginners and newer people below me entering the space, as well as for like recruiters. But then what I also do, like you just mentioned, on the job, if I like today, for example, I could not figure out how to create a custom report that would show activities and tasks for two separate objects. What I did is I have my Notion pulled up and I have a table, and I'll write down I'll write down what I can't solve as a topic. And then like either later on that day or the next day or whatever, I'll Google it and find a solution and write down the solution. Then I have another column that says posted, and that will be like a blog post. So I might make a blog post that the topic will be my use case. Like I did not know, like trying to create a custom report type. So it's really like how to's, but it's like things that you're learning and teaching yourself and finding solutions at the same time. You're documenting your journey and documenting your process of what you're learning. So I have right now I have a lot of posts that are on my Notion that I'm looking at that I have to like write up and post on my blog. So and it's crazy because it all comes together and coincides with one another. So like how to create a flow. Like when you start learning flows, you're not going to know everything with flows. I'm sure you're going to find a challenge, and it's going to be a how-to blog because or a how-to blog post because you're not going to know how to do something, and you're teaching yourself / teaching others, if that makes sense. So ties together.
Yeah.
That's super solid. I'd just add on to that, and I'll have to make sure I disable that next time because I would have loved to see it. I do have my Notion though here, Jaron, and it's pretty dang similar to like what Phil was just saying. So what I've done is like a little different probably from all of you because you're going through it, but I would take this same idea and apply it to what you're learning on Trailhead. So Trailhead, when you think of Trailhead, I mean, what are they doing? It's the same idea, right? Which is here's something that you have to learn. This is how we're going to break it down to you. They try to put it in their own words. Salesforce tries to be a little more like funny and light, and they'll put stuff in there. And so they kind of do the same idea, which is this is something you got to learn. This is how we're going to explain it to you. And this is like what you would have to do. It's the same idea here for mine, where as I've been going through work, like once you have a job, you could focus it on this way. And anything that I have done that I had to Google, I write down the link that I used. And then it's almost a double, right? Which is, let's just say nobody out there ever gave, any care about what I put out in there in the world. Okay, whatever. Like I would still have this entire portfolio to myself as a reference point for future jobs, which I think is super valuable. So if I go to a new job, okay, cool. Well, there's all these solutions that I've Googled over the last whatever month or something. Okay, now I know how to do them all and I don't need to Google them again. I have it written down in my own language, my own understanding. This is how I would do it. This is how I was able to achieve that thing. So once again, it works both ways. It works a way for you to internalize Salesforce and learn it. But then number two, it gives you a reason to post about something and an easy way to do it. So I do exactly what Phil does, which is, okay, this is something I didn't know how to do. How did I learn it? And how would I break that down to somebody else if I was teaching them? And so this is kind of the stuff that I write down. Another way that you can do it is like questions that you're asked. So same thing, maybe a little different from all you, but I get a lot of questions that are asked to me every single day in my DMs. I go through them. I see what people ask me. I write those things down. That has become more for me, not so much a portfolio, but more so for like social posts and stuff for courses, stuff for like topics that we're talking about, stuff that I'll cover in my newsletter. And that's kind of where I've used these types of questions. But same idea, it doesn't need to be fancy. You could just write down questions that people ask you. Lastly, I stole this one from another creator that I follow on Twitter. Is super awesome. He's more about like how to grow on Twitter. One big thing that he was all about is this might be more of like personal branding that we're getting into now that maybe you don't need to overthink right now. But his whole idea is when it comes to personal branding, saying that he likes to say a lot is he's like really focusing on his main goal of Twitter is to earn money, right? Like it's a business for him. And so he has a course called Likes Ain't Cash. And basically the idea behind it is a lot of people, myself included, when I started posting on social media, the easy way out to post anything, if anybody wants to go viral, you guys can just feel free to DM me anytime and I'll send you like 100 different things that are cliche things to say online, and I guarantee you they'll blow up. I just did one this week. It got like 10,000 likes. I've done it in the past and it got 55,000 likes. And guess what happens when I post that? Literally nothing. Nobody follows me on my newsletter. Nobody buys my course. Nobody does anything. And so the idea behind it is what we got to get over, all of us include, myself included, that I've been trying since the beginning of this year is we all have this ego that we want to build up, which is, oh, look at me and look at all these posts. And the more I've dug in, the more like solid resources I found from the guy that had 14 likes on his post that I now want to follow to the end of the earth because I'm like, this guy knows everything. Like this is the expert that I was looking for, right? Like, I don't care if he got 100 likes or he got 2 likes. This thing is valuable to me and like he knows what he's talking about. So the idea behind this little setup here in his course called Likes Ain't Cash is the same idea, like to avoid what they like to call, the word for it is platitudes, which is just basically like something super cliche to say and everybody's going to agree with it. And that's why you get a ton of likes and everybody feels good at the end of the day. And it's stuff that we all see on LinkedIn, right? Which is like, into going into the office, remote work for employees, and it gets 50 billion likes and everyone's like, you're awesome. And you feel cool for a day, but literally nothing happens. And so the idea is to really drill in and try to figure out like what you would want to do as a creator. And obviously I've been doing this for a while and study it a ton. So the idea for me, right, is like my pillars are, I've really drilled into, like, I want to help people like you guys. Like, I want to help beginners get started. There's a lot of stuff I know about Salesforce. I do flows every single day of my life for my job. Like, there's all this technical stuff I know how to do. But like for me personally, I don't really care to like talk about that a ton. So I would drill into, okay, who are the people that I want to follow me and what are their frustrations? Like, what do they talk about? Which would come back to these types of questions, right? Okay, what are their wants? Like, what do they want to do? Like, why are they frustrated? What are their dreams? What do they end up wanting to achieve? And that's why you see on my landing page, it talks about the amount of money you can earn, talks about having a remote life, talks about having more job security, talks about more leverage. Those are the same things, the reasons why I wanted to get started with Salesforce. And then obviously like fears, like what are things that they fear doing, which is, well, I got to start a brand new job. Like, I don't know how to do it. How do I transition over? What if it doesn't work? What if, I spend money on this course and then I never learn anything? So it's just reverse engineering the type of person you want to talk to. And so you can kind of take this same principle. Like I said, this is more your personal brand, but you could apply this to your blog as well, which is, how can I reverse engineer the type of person I'm trying to attract? And that's what I did when I didn't have any clue of what I was doing. It was, my goal of my portfolio is to earn more money and get better jobs. I don't want to earn certifications. I don't want to compete with others. So how can I do that? I'm going to talk about how I am a really good admin, and I'm going to tell you all the secrets about being an admin, and I'm going to publish those on my blog. And what that's going to help me do is more recruiters are going to see I'm talking about admin stuff and how I'm good at my job, and they're going to automatically come into my DMs because they think I'm good at my job. And now I'm going to get all those sourced directly to me versus having to apply for them. And obviously that's worked really well. I get 3 job offers every single week, and it hasn't stopped since I've been doing this. And yeah, that's kind of how I've approached it. Hopefully that's helpful. Cool, good questions. We have about 7 minutes left. Is there anybody else that had anybody, or I guess anything else they wanted to add on to, anything else they want to bring up?
There's a couple more things I want to add on to what you're saying too, Jordan. Starting out, just set a goal for yourself and don't try to like overdo it. So for me, I literally wrote down I want to post I did 2 to 4 times a week. And I'm putting out 2 to 4 posts a week, and whether that be on Twitter, or LinkedIn, or my blog post, and just getting in the habit of doing that, and then increasing that as you go. So just so you don't burn out and overwhelm yourself. And the second thing is, I'm going back to the last question that was asked. Another thing I do, and I know Jordan probably tells you guys this too, is go to LinkedIn and look at your dream job and look at the dream job posting, and look in the description, and there's your gold mine of what to write about. So if the job description says learn how to reset passwords, user passwords, like for admin, or create new users, you can literally, and that's what I'm going to start doing to add on to my website, write a blog post and do a screen share and show that and tag it to your blog post. There you go. You literally just knocked out a bullet point in the job description. So that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to like senior Salesforce admin job posts, looking at what they want, what they're looking for, like someone who understands flows, or security, security and certain topics like that. And I'm going back and like saying, okay, how can I make a blog post and a video about this, showing that I know how to do this? Because now you're just, like Jordan said, you build it once, they're going to know that you know what you're doing because you literally just did a blog post and a screen share, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to go through these hoops and hurdles of technical interviews and talking to people. They know you can do the job because you literally are doing everything that is listed in the job posting.
Yeah, I love that. I actually don't tell them to do that, so thanks for plugging that. That's a really good idea to do it. I think like Phil said, like really just try to think about like how you would reverse engineer stuff, right? Which is, I think what helps, at least me, maybe I could say it a different way too, is what helps for me is to think about all the stuff we're talking about and think about what you would do in a different scenario. Like a really dumb one, but easy one that we would all understand is, when you're dating in life, it's the same idea, right? Which is, who am I as a person and what am I putting out there to attract the person that's going to be similar to that? It's the same idea, right? And so when you take that idea of like dating life or getting married or whatever it is, well, it's the same idea when it comes to your job. You're doing the same type of thing. How do I put stuff out there into the world to attract this thing back? And so like Phil said, okay, well, obviously, like I could just go look up my dream job in 5 years or 2 years or tomorrow, and I can just go look at their bullet points. Okay, cool. They want me to know how to do flows. All right, I'm going to start doing some videos on flows. I'm going to start blogging about flows and telling people how I know how to do it. And I think the biggest takeaway from this lesson that Phil has really touched on a lot, that I wasn't planning on going into, that I've really liked, is this whole thing that we're doing, the blog, posting on social, getting yourself out there. What it's going to feel like when you first start, that Phil said, like it's a little overwhelming, and to not set it so high. I did the same thing. I think for me, when I first started, it was literally just one post a week. It was just, I'm just going to post one time on LinkedIn once a week, and then I'll increase that as I get better at it. And that eventually led to what I do now. And the second part is everything that you're putting into this bucket, like we've said a couple times, it doesn't go away. And in the beginning, I think I was under the other impression, which is, okay, I'm going to post on LinkedIn, or I'll build this website, or I'll do a YouTube video. And then what? Like I'm just one guy and it's one video and nobody's going to care. But in the long run, as you build that thing up and you add more to it over time, that just becomes more and more and more and more valuable. It doesn't go away. Like I still have people from 2 years ago when I did an interview with Bradley Rice. I still like at least once a week have somebody hit me up on LinkedIn and be like, hey man, saw your interview on YouTube with Bradley Rice. Like really appreciate you talking about that. I'm like, that was like almost 3 years ago. Something I just did on a whim that I didn't really think about. And it's added all this value, right? And so I think that's the second part. Like, don't count your guys' self out, and like realize that, yeah, you are just starting. You just have this foundation that you're just building now. But in the long run, that's what's going to add up and add more value for you as a person. So that's a really good point. Let's see where we're at. I know I have a hard stop in 2 minutes. I have another obligation to run to. So anybody else have anything else for the last 2 minutes? If not, we'll end a little early, and then I'll get this edited up and posted into our community. Okay, sounds
Nothing
good.
besides thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for all being here live. I know it takes time out of your life, but it really does make the conversations a lot better. And it's easier to get people like Phil to like buy on to come do these things, because I'm like, I guess I could come in here and just like interview somebody, but super helpful when you guys all chime in. So I really appreciate your guys' participation.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
Okay, appreciate you all. And like I said, I'll post this as soon as I can to our community so you can rewatch it. Until then, appreciate it again, Phil, and we'll talk again on our next event.
Bye.
See you guys.